Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. What an amazing turnout, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors for tonight, Cody and Gabby Cohen, Daniel Delamami, Elena Akini, Andrew Agrani, Jasmine Kamali, Justin and Audrey Kamali, David Bulai, Gary and Beth Orbach, and Ryan Ramadan. Thank you all. I also want to thank the Shari Shalom Board and Adam Levine for supporting us tonight and giving us everything we need to make this evening a success. A huge thank you as well to both the NYC Board and the SBM team for planning this amazing night. You have each done so much work behind the scenes, and we are truly grateful. Thank you. Tonight we have the honor to hear the great Torah from Rabbi Adam Setzavari and to be inspired by Cody Cohen, who has chosen to open his heart and share his personal journey. Thank you, Cody, for your courage, and may Hashem bless you and grant perfect health to you, your family, and to all Am Yisrael. Following the program, we invite everyone to enjoy our Sukkot tasting more on the social hall. At this time, I would like to invite Rabbi Mikey Levy for a special announcement and to lead us in the prayer of Tehillim and Mishra for all those who need. Thank you.
Before we get to the Tehillim, just a quick announcement that Emmanuel prefaced with. B'ezrat Hashem, this Sunday, the UMJCA Spartak Bet Midrash SPM will be having its second annual online fundraiser. Last year's campaign, our first one, was Baruch Hashem really successful, and it's thanks to everyone in the community, over 1,600 individual donors. So it was really a team effort. So we thank everyone for last year's cooperation. And B'ezrat Hashem, this year with Hashem's help, we plan on raising our goal, and that's really in everyone's hands. So we're making a quick plea. You'll see the posts, you'll see the flyers, you'll see the campaign this weekend. Next Sunday, B'ezrat Hashem, this coming Sunday. Whoever can support, we will really appreciate it. It's your donations that help us do more programming, expand our learning, do more for the community and give back. So B'ezrat Hashem, we would love for everyone to join us in the beautiful mitzvah and expanding Torah in our community. And lastly, it told me a nice thing for this year. We are excited to share that this year, NYC will also have its own team page. Every dollar raised through the NYC page will go exclusively towards programming for our youth, B'ezrat Hashem. So that's this Sunday, online campaign. Anyone who can give, B'ezrat Hashem, would be really appreciated. Please keep an eye out for the campaign. And we'd like to just ask everyone to please rise before we call up our speakers. We'd like to say a parak of Tehillim. Baruch Hashem, we're celebrating an amazing story tonight, but we know in our community there are many people who are still praying for Refuah Shlema. So we'll say a parak of Tehillim for all those who need a Refuah Shlema, followed by a Mishibarach. You can have their names in mind when I pause. Shir l'ma'alot esai enai el hari man yevo ezri b'nim Adonai oseh shamayim ba'aretz al yiten lamot ragacha al yenu shomerecha hine lo yanum v'lo yisham shomer Yisrael Adonai shomerecha Adonai tzilecha al yad yaminecha Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka ve'yareach balayla Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra yishmor et nafshecha Adonai yishmor tzedkecha v'orecha me'ata ve'ad olam Mi shebarach avotinu kedoshim Avraham, Yitzhak v'Yaakov Moshe v'Aaron Navi Shlomo Hu yivarech v'yishlach refuah shlema L'chol kolei amo Yisrael v'chol amo yarpe'ed Elar pana lahem, Elar pana lahem, Elar pana lahem. Kadosh Baruch Hu yishlach lahem refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh u'refuat haguf, hashta u'bagala u'zman karib, v'chen yehi ratzon, v'nomar amen. You can please be seated at this time. We'd like to call up Rabbi Adam Setzavari to introduce tonight's event.
Cody, this stain is definitely not tall enough for you. Not even tall enough for me, so. You guys didn't get the memo of the height of the speakers. Good evening, everyone. Erev Tov, Zizkut HaMitzvot, to the SBM and to the MIC. Really, Baruch Hashem, the MIC and the SBM teams coming together. All of these volunteers putting in so much time and effort behind the scenes to make sure that this is such a successful event. Round of applause for the MIC and the SBM. Baruch Hashem. And I can say from the perspective of the youth of our community, Baruch Hashem, we're in good hands, and we have a great future ahead as a community, as a kehillah. We're right before Chanukah, and I'd like to share some of the great Torah about Chanukah and the messages of Chanukah, and to connect it to Chloe's story. But before that, what I'd like to say is, this is actually an extremely unique opportunity for me. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event for me. Usually I'm giving a shiur, and people will say, oh, I heard you're giving a shiur at the Slichot event, or you're giving a shiur on this class, or on this parasha. This is the first time in history that someone stopped me on Shabbat and said, Rabbi, I heard you're speaking at the donut tasting event. I am now the featured speaker at a donut tasting event. It's a feat that I never thought I would accomplish. Baruch Hashem, I made it. But in all seriousness, this whole donut idea, you guys haven't seen it yet. There's donut tasting afterwards. We're trying to reverse Chanukah. See, in Chanukah, we had one jar of oil that lasted 8 nights. Tonight, you will have 8 days worth of donuts being consumed in just one night. Baruch Hashem. I got a nice round of applause. Okay, good. Baruch Hashem. Let's begin to speak about Chanukah and one of the big ideas behind Chanukah. One of the big themes and big ideas behind Chanukah is against all odds. See, I'm a big numbers guy. I'm an actuary by profession. I love data. I love statistics. I love looking at numbers and using that numbers to predict things. Because you can. There's science to probability and statistics. But the story of the Jewish people is that we defy all odds. And really, that is the key story of Chanukah. Right now, there are odds and statistics for everything. I don't know if you know about these apps, these websites, Kalshi, Polymarket. There's betting apps. You could literally bet on anything. I just checked right now. And I think there's numbers of the bets of how many tweets Elon Musk is going to make this 1 week, or how many times someone is going to say a certain word in a certain speech. There's bets for everything, and there's numbers behind everything. There's stats behind everything. But the story of Chanukah is that these stats and these numbers don't matter. When Am Yisrael, we had our Beit HaMikdash, and the Greeks came in and they defiled, they went into the Beit HaMikdash and took over, and they put idols, and they really took it away from us. We had a very small army, a group of men, led by Mattatyahu Maccabi and his sons, his 5 sons, the Maccabees, that were trying to defend and fight off the Greek army. I want you to understand the numbers. The army that the Jewish people had, the Maccabees had, a few thousand of guerrilla warfare. They didn't have technology, they didn't have much weapons. They were fighting against the Greek armies that had over 100,000, hundreds of thousands of soldiers. They had the top technology. You know what they had that we didn't have, which is crazy to think about it, but they had elephants. And you might say, that's fine. No, imagine they had over 30 elephants fighting wars. What did we have? We had little pocket knives. And in fact, there's part of these stories of these elephants, the Greeks would have on top of them a bunch of warriors, bows and arrows. You couldn't stop it. It was like modern day tanks are there. This is their form of the highest technology. And in fact, one of the Maccabees wanted to kill the leading general in one of the fights, Elazar. He knew which elephant he was on, this general was on, and he did a suicide mission, ran in, tried to kill this elephant. The elephant ended up crushing him, and he died. And that wasn't even the elephant that the general was on. And so there was just so many of these stories of really the David versus Goliath. But just like with David versus Goliath, we were successful. This is what we say in the Al Nisim. Masarta Giborim Yad Chanashim. You, God, you helped deliver the strong, powerful army of the Greeks in the hands of the weak. Rabim Be'ad Me'atim, the numerous, they were 100 times larger. Their army was 100 times larger. But we were still successful. Why? Because this is the story of Am Yisrael, where you do defy all odds, where the numbers don't mean anything. Why? Why don't the numbers mean anything? Because Hashem is behind us. Because of Ribono Shel Olam. Because when a person has emunah and a person has hope, they're not dictated, they're not going under the rules of statistics, but they're going under the rules of Hashkafa from Hashem. And this is something that we had back then. The truth of the matter is, this is the story of Israel to modern day. The number of wars that we've had, from the beginning of Hakamat HaMedina, 1948, till the war of the 60 War, none of these make any sense of how we could win. Actually, there's one incident that I want to highlight because it just came and passed. Last year, in April 2024, was the first time that Iran attacked Israel directly. They launched over 300 ballistic missiles, drones. I have the numbers here. 170 drones, 30 cruise missiles, 120 ballistic missiles on April 13, 2024, that Iran launched at Israel. Listen to this. Israel said that with the coalition of defense and this defensive efforts that they named the Iron Shield, they destroyed 99% of the incoming weapons, mostly before they even reached Israeli airspace. We read that as a stat, the chances of a country shooting over 300 ballistic missiles and drones to this small piece of land, and 99% of them were shot down. This defies odds. This defies logic. Am Yisrael defies odds. Now, you might say, well, we knew about it. Well, they telegraphed this, they told the world, they cleared the airspace, and you could say, this makes sense. Well, they had help from this country, and you had help from that country. And you could say that about the Maccabees also. Well, they had their guerrilla warfare tactics. Well, they made a lot of noise and they scared people. But at the end of the day, none of it makes sense and it defies all odds unless you understand Ribono Shel Olam is behind it. The famous story of Hanukkah that everyone knows is what? What's the story that everyone knows about Hanukkah? The oil. That's what everyone knows about Hanukkah. The oil. What happened? They went into the Beit HaMikdash that was made impure by Antiochus of the Greeks. They go in and they find one jar of oil that's supposed to last one night, one day, and it lasts for 8 days. Once again, this is something, go check Kalshi. What are the rates? What would you win? What are the betting odds of oil for one night lasting for 8 days? Now you might come up with ways, well, they did it this way, they only put a little bit, then it lasted like this. You can try to come up with explanations, but at the end of the day, this is what Hashkafa is. There are many events, many miracles, and all of them that occurred in Hanukkah were not these amazing open miracles like the sea splitting and hail falling from the sky that we had like Pesach. These miracles were hidden. These miracles occurred through nature. And part of our emunah bitachon is to be able to look and see and recognize God's hand in nature. This is our challenge. Ribono Shel Olam is sending us these miracles for Hanukkah and throughout the entire history of Jewish people. Our challenge is to be able to look at them and say, that's God. That's the hand of God. There's explanations, yes, but ultimately, that's God. That's the story of Am Yisrael, to be able to understand that we defy all odds because Hashem is behind us. I want to take this a little bit to talk about preparing us for the story of Cody, I would say that when Cody, on October 7th, last year, when you had your incident that you're going to speak about, we heard that you need our prayers, and we prayed. And it was right before Yom Kippur, and I remember Imam Minyan getting up there and saying, Cody needs our tefillot, let's all focus, and we had probably the best kavanahs in Minyan that we've ever had. And Baruch Hashem, we prayed for you with our full intent, and we had good news. And then about a week later, when you came home, I came to visit you, and I remember realizing after the fact, I had no idea how serious this was. I thought he was sick. I didn't realize that being able to see Cody is even a miracle at this moment. Cody came up to face death in this event that he experienced. And we had no idea, but we prayed. And I will say that in those moments, if you talk to doctors and you put the statistics in front of them, statistically, it didn't look good. But Cody defied odds. And that night. And it happened through nature, because Baruch Hashem, there was many people, there was the Hatzalah, first responders that came in and they took him, and there was the doctors, and there was the nurses, and there was the blood donors, and the blood transfusion, and there was an entire series of events that occurred. But behind all of it was Ribono Shel Olam, was God. And that's our challenge. Our challenge is that when there is so many events occurring in nature, can we recognize the hand of God? Because someone can look at it and say, well, this happened because of this and because of that, and it was a freak event and this and that. Or you could understand that really Ribono Shel Olam is running the world behind us. There are many people that you have to be grateful to. It doesn't mean that you're not grateful to the doctors, you're not grateful to the Hatzalah first responders, you're not grateful to the nurses. Of course you are. But who gives them the wisdom to be successful? That's Ribono Shel Olam, that's God. And that's the same idea, that through this small military, we won the wars of Hanukkah. Through this small jar of oil, we were able to have it for all 9 days. And really, through Baruch Hashem, the doctors and the first responders and everyone through your event, Cody, we were able to, Baruch Hashem, see you and hear from you. Because this was a miracle. And I'll challenge us all to say, although his story is very unique, we all had events in our lives that we're struggling with, and that we know that Ribono Shel Olam is behind it. Many years ago, actually it was 10 years ago, happens to be, I was talking to Cody at another time, for the Divrei Torah that we were speaking to. This was a decade ago. And at that time, what we were speaking about is how to deal with struggles, with challenges, with hearing bad news. And I shared with you at that time with Dvar Torah that resonates with me very well, and it's something that I often think about. The Torah tells us that there was a point in history, around the time of the Chet HaEgel, Moshe Rabbeinu asks God, Areini nat kivotecha, I want to understand your ways. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do people suffer? What is the pattern? I don't understand why there's good things happening to bad people, but then sometimes bad things to bad, and bad to good, and good to bad, good to bad. None of it makes any sense. There's no pattern. Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem, please explain to me your ways. And Hashem responds, Lo yir'ani ha'adam b'chai. A person cannot see me, which means understand me, and continue to live. It's almost as though God said, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. Why? Because as humans, there's certain things that we don't have access to that type of information. But what Hashem tells Moshe is, V'ra'ita et achorai ufanai lo yira'u. I'll show you my back. I won't show you my front. I won't show you my face, but I'll show you my back. It's a very mysterious line, because our belief is Hashem doesn't have a body. He has no face, he has no back. Moshe says, I want to understand your ways. He says, I'll show you my back. I won't show you my front. What does that mean? So one explanation that I read, we spoke about 10 years ago, was that Hashem is saying, you can't see me in the front, meaning while something is happening, you're not going to understand it. When I'm here, real time, the event is occurring, you're in the middle of it, you feel that darkness, you're not going to understand it. I cannot explain it to you at that point. But here's what I'll give you. Maybe, just maybe, one day, when you're looking back at this, when I'm in that, you're seeing my back because the event's already over, maybe you'll be able to connect the dots and say, I understand why this had to happen. I understand what came out of this. Maybe. No guarantees. We don't know why things happen. And we will never know unless you're a prophet and God speaks to you. We will never know why. But what Hashem told Moshe is, don't expect to know about it in the moment. But maybe there's hope that one day you'll look back at it and say, I understand why. I think each and every one of us have our own defying all odds against all odd moments. I could say that I speak with a lot of you in dating where you feel like there's no hope. How many times can you keep trying? How many times can you keep going forward? You feel like it's against all odds. It could be some people with medical situations where they're just hearing bad news after bad news. It could be financial burdens of trying to make a living. Different types of relationships. Everyone has their own against all odds moment. But the story of Hanukkah, and really the story of the Jewish people, is don't give up. Don't give up hope. Because the odds don't matter when Hashem is involved. There's no guarantees. Sometimes the answer is no. And sometimes we will not understand why. But sometimes the answer is yes. And as long as we have that, and we recognize that Hashem is involved, we understand that odds don't matter. That is really the story of Hanukkah, is to give us hope, to give us emunah, to understand that Ribono Shel Olam is involved with this world. We don't have guarantees, but we have emunah and we have hope. And without that, we won't be able to go forward. Because if someone gives up hope, they've already lost. But when someone has that emunah and stays strong with it, Be'ezrat Hashem, they can see their hidden miracles occurring in their lives. I'm speaking about these hidden miracles, and we're giving examples from the past, but I think tonight we have a tremendous zechut to hear about someone who really, to hear from someone who really experienced and saw Hashem's hand firsthand. I want to invite everyone to listen to Kobe's story. And when you do, number one, not just listen with your ears, but to listen with your minds and your heart, and to really hear in his story the hand of Hashem, and how he experienced miracle after miracle. But to take it a step further, I challenge you to then turn and look in your own lives, and these seemingly coincidental events that are occurring, to find the hand of God throughout your entire life, knowing that really with the support of Hashem in your lives, we can defy all odds. Be'ezrat Hashem, I hope and pray that we get the courage never to give up hope, always to stay strong in our emunah, and here at Son Be'ezrat Hashem, may Hashem answer all of our tefillah letovah, even when they're against all odds. With that, it's my honor to call out Cody.
First off, thank you, Rabbi Adam. Beautiful words of Torah, that your wisdom is unmatched, and our community is very lucky to have you here. And of course, thank you for everyone who made this night possible, all the sponsors, all the people put together, so how much work that went into it. And of course, thank you for everyone here who came to, hear Rabbi and myself. I'm very thankful for that. So that being said, so my incident happened a little bit over a year ago, October 7th, 2024. It's not a great date in the calendar for many, many reasons. And it was a normal day, nothing really going on. This was 2 days after Rosh Hashanah, and it's the day after Tzom Gedalia. So throughout the day, it was a normal work day for me. I was working from home. My wife and I, my son were living at my in-laws' house at the time. And I was experiencing some stomach pains, nothing crazy, just I was a little bit uncomfortable. Throughout the day it was progressing, nothing crazy. My wife had a doctor's appointment, I was home with my son around 2, 3 o'clock, and then later she came home and she went on a walk with Miles, my son, and my mother-in-law. At this point I was just home, just trying to relax, maybe because I just fasted and I broke my fast, I had my food the day before, maybe just my stomach was upset, I don't know. And progressing, one thing's leading to another. I was home alone and I was feeling more and more uncomfortable around 5, 6 o'clock. And I was texting Dad, I was calling her, I'm like, come home, I'm pretty uncomfortable, I'm not feeling so well. And my wife is a nurse, she works in the OR, so anything medical, everybody calls her for it. Especially my family. Because she's Ashkenaz and we're a Sephardi, so a medical professional, everyone reaches out to them. So I'm like, come home, I'm really not feeling well. I don't tend to complain. I think a lot about things with medical, but this was getting pretty bad. So she comes home with my son and my mother-in-law, and she just asked me, how do you feel? What are you doing? Take this, I take some Pepto-Bismol, maybe that'll help relieve my stomach. Nothing's working. Came to the point I was getting very hot, I had to undress, I was literally just in underwear, I was really not feeling well. And then I'm maybe I just need to I was very nauseous, maybe I need to throw up or something. So I go into the bathroom, and I throw up in the toilet, and then I feel this rush, this sensation going up my chest, this burning feeling. I felt like I got punched 100 times. And I look over at Gabby, and I'm like, I'm not feeling better. Then immediately she told me that I got all white, I was sweating profusely, and I collapsed to the floor. At that moment, I was suddenly unconscious, but I heard Gabby yell, and she says, I need to call Hatzalah. And then the last thing I remember saying, I just go, my phone. I have Hatzalah's contact on my phone, as everyone should. So from then, she called Hatzalah, and within less than 3 minutes of Rosh Hashanah, the first Hatzalah member came by, and at that point, my mother-in-law took our son Miles, and Gabby and the first person who got there dragged me out of the bathroom, lied me down on the bedroom floor, and until other members came, they were trying to wake me up, they were pushing some medication, doing what they needed to do, and I came to. I woke up, I was conscious, but I was in a lot of pain, and I remember all the faces who were there, some of them are in this very room, and I just remember being really confused what happened, and Gabby's explaining to me what happened. I remember, and I just keep coming. I had a lot of stomach pain, a lot of pain. They just kept saying a lot of things, a lot of medical things, oh, give me this, push that, give me blood pressure cuff, take this, take that. A lot of things happening, and I just remember saying, I can't, I'm having trouble feeling my legs. I was losing feeling in my legs. They said, can you feel this? Can you feel that? I'm like, yeah, I can feel it, but it's very subtle. And I was in a lot of pain. At that moment, they were trying to stabilize me to transfer me to the hospital because I can't just be sitting there. But again, you can't transfer me until I'm stable, or else, it's a double-edged sword. Something bad could happen. But they don't know exactly what's going on. There's theories about it. They thought there was something wrong with the medical equipment. They kept trying to get a blood pressure read, and nothing was working. They thought it was so messed up. That's how bad it was. My blood pressure was plummeting. So finally, they started getting a little bit stable. I remember one of my siblings just showed up, and right away, Gabby told him to my brother, he's like, "Don't tell your mom. We don't know what's happening. Just don't tell your mom yet." So, and those of you who know my mom, if I get the slightest cold, the world is ending. And now you know why for many reasons. So they kind of get me stable enough to transfer to the hospital, and they end up, there's like 4 guys trying to get me down the staircase. I'm not the smallest guy, so it's not easy. So there's 4 guys taking me down a stretcher that go one side of the staircase, take a break, down the other side of the staircase. And I remember right when they got out the front door, it was October, it was pretty chilly. I felt that I was also, like I mentioned, I was literally only in my boxers. I felt the cold gust of air just hitting around when I got outside. And then I just heard my mom pull up right to the front. And like in my head, I'm like, no, oh God. And just for reference, so in Sefer Shoftim, we hear about this person named Sisera. Sisera was a battle commander against the Jewish people. And once he fled after a battle, he found refuge in the home of this woman called Yael. She like brought him under her roof, whatever, and she ended up, killing him without him being aware. He was out over there, she came, killed him. And we hear about this lady, the mother of Sisera, and she said she was by her window looking, where's my son, where's my son? So like 100 times she cried, and they use the word like wail, that like, where's my son? We kind of compare it to the 100 Tekiyot Shofar for Rosh Hashanah. So when I tell you, when I heard my mom, this is the first thing I think of, is she was wailing when she saw me. Imagine seeing your son, not knowing exactly what's happening, getting stretchered out of a house, going into an ambulance. So when I say wail, I can't say cry. Cry doesn't do it. She's crying now. Wailing is another thing completely, and I'll never get that out of my head. And I was getting stretchered into the hospital, into the ambulance, and for like those people, who watch football, when someone gets hit really bad, or they like the knee goes the opposite direction, or like a crazy concussion, and paralyzed, they're getting carted off the field. They give like a thumbs up to the fans, like I'm gonna be good. I gave like a little thumbs up while going into the ambulance. I wasn't good. It was a thumbs down, but I tried like, no, I'll be good. I wasn't good at all. So the hospital, the ambulance on the way to the hospital, the drive felt for 4 seconds. I'm like in and out of consciousness. Like I just keep telling myself like breathe, in through my nose, out of my mouth, breathe. I look up at Hashem. I remember I was looking at Hashem. I'm like, Hashem, please. I have a wife. I have a newborn son, 3 months old. Please, whatever this is. Again, I didn't know how bad it was. Like, let me get through this. Let me get through this. Whatever it is, send someone else. Send something, an angel down. Let me get through this. Heal me. We are in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, and right away they saw get us into the ER, and at that point it's maybe around like 8, 9, 10 o'clock or something, I don't know. And right now there's like probably 25 nurses and doctors working in the ER, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. They do a sonogram in my belly, and they see there's a lot of blood built up in my abdomen area. A lot of blood, a lot of fluid, but they need to get a bigger picture. They end up doing a CT scan, CAT scan. I have to go into the machine. I remember I put my arms up and go under, and I was in a lot of pain. And once I got through, they saw that I had an aneurysm rupture. So what that means is that an artery, arteries provide a lot of blood. They're very big. And what I had was a pooling of that blood in the artery is called an aneurysm. Think about like a fire hose, and think about what happens if there's nowhere for the water to go. It builds up until what? It bursts. And think about what happens when it bursts. There's water going everywhere. Think about that in the body. There's an uncontrollable amount of blood just pooling up in my body, bursting, going everywhere. And I remember a little bit before that, we were still working on me to figure out, they pricking me everywhere, in my arms, my hands, my neck. I had 2 IVs go directly into my neck. Like, they couldn't get a good read because I had lost so much blood. They needed to find good access points for an IV. So I got pricked everywhere. And I remember they were telling the people like what to do, and I remember just looking up, and these 2 nurses are holding my hand, and I'm looking at the Hashem, send an angel down to heal me. And as I'm looking, I see Gabby's over my head, putting an oxygen mask on me, putting fluids down. And I'm like, well, there's my answer. She's like right on top of me. She was working with the other nurses there, like stabilizing me in the ER. Usually as like a wife of someone who's like going through this, you're in the waiting room breaking down. She was like in survival mode. She's like, we're gonna fix this, we're gonna fix this. At the time she was working in the city in Lenox Hill, but now she is working at the St. Mary Hospital at North Shore. And they were saying like what to do for the surgery, like we see a lot of pooling of the blood, my splenic arteries ruptured. They're saying like they're having surgery and they made me through my spleen, and immediately when they say they made me through my spleen, I look up and for a split second, this is how well my wife knows me, she looks down at me, she's like, Cody, you will still be able to play basketball with that spleen. 0 time on my, not like will you live, you'll still be able to play basketball with that spleen. That's the first thing. I couldn't even speak, I just looked up and that's what she told me. And then we had a family friend there who Gabby called, very renowned medical professional. He met us at the hospital. As Gabby said that, he's like, what are you focusing on? Just live, just survive. Don't worry about basketball. He was yelling, get him to surgery, he needs surgery. And after that time, I was telling him, at this point I lost all feeling in my legs. From my waist down, I had no more feeling. It was tough. There was a lot of pressure building up from the blood, from my diaphragm down was compressed, and it was just like a big explosion waiting to happen. We get into the OR. At this point, it's just medical professionals. At this point, there's no other OR open. They shut every OR. Everyone in the hospital was working on me. We're in the operating room, and as they're wheeling me in, I see they take something called a hybrid OR. It's an operating room that is bigger. It's a new room. It has multiple surgery teams could work in that room as opposed to just one. So there's some deliberation between the trauma surgeons and interventional radiologists, like who should take over this case, who should be doing the surgery. I remember just really feeling, I'm telling them, these nurses are holding my hands, I'm like, put me in anesthesia, put me under, I can't, I'm fading, I can't do this anymore. And the fact that I'm still awake is crazy in and of itself. I should be awake at this point, and it was been multiple hours since the rupture actually happened, and every second is precious, but there's a lot to iron out on what to do. Clearly this wasn't a very simple case. This could happen in the hospital, this very same thing, and the person will have very slim chances of surviving. This happened in my in-laws' house, and I had to get stabilized, make it to the hospital. It was all a process. And I remember looking at them please, just get me under anesthesia. I can't take this pain anymore. I can't. And at that point, that's when my point of view ends, and the rest was filled into me by doctors and family. My point of view, comes after. Surprise, I made it, but it was I woke up in ICU. So me fading, when I said to me anesthesia, that wasn't me going under anesthesia. So they called the code on me, which means that my heart stopped. So at this point, I was clinically dead. My heart wasn't beating anymore. I lost a lot of blood, and they had to revive me. You can imagine what that looks like in all these doctor shows. You probably watched on chest compressions, defibrillator, but they didn't do that. The doctor came right away. He cut me open from the chest down to my belly button. I had a scar this big. It's pretty awesome. And to add to my other scars. And he said he cut me open immediately. Explosion of blood came out. All the blood, this blood, the pressure was building. My abdomen went everywhere. It got him, got everyone was in the splash zone, completely soaked. And at this point, he needed to restart my heart. And he went under my chest with his bare hands. He was wearing gloves, of course. And he started pumping my heart with his bare hands. Pumping. It's called a cardiac massage. So very much like a last resort type of thing. They couldn't do anything else. Once this happened, I lost so much blood. They couldn't even do compressions and defibrillator, nothing. None of that would work. They had to go in right away. And Baruch Hashem, we're counting miracles. We're up to number 4, I think. My heart started beating again. And I'm not starting off well. I'm really behind the 8 ball, because a lot lot of these things are happening. Like, let's say this happens in the hospital, they gave me the surgery right away, it's still very tough. All this stuff is happening. I had to get stabilized, I had to make it to the hospital, I had to get to the OR, then I coded, and then it's another thing, one thing after another. So they started surgery, and they're just like working on me, trying to control the bleed. They're trying to control the bleed, and it's a lot of blood I'm losing. I'm losing a ton of blood. And after like 3-4 hours, there's like all my family's there, siblings, the cousins, the uncles, aunts, everyone's in the hospital in the waiting room. And they're just working, they're waiting, they don't know what to expect. And the doctors were able to, glue up the arteries, sew it back, kind of like stabilize it, everything was intact. And the doctor comes out. And at this point, there's like 50 people waiting in the waiting room, and you can see this doctor's very overwhelmed. He just went through a crazy surgery, he had blood all over him, he had to shower. He comes out and sees the waiting room, all these people, he's like distraught, he didn't know what to say. He's like, and my family says this guy, when they tell me this guy didn't know how to speak English. He was so, they thought there was something wrong with him. He comes out, he's like, so he's looking, like I said, I'm looking at all these, like, who do I speak to? And right away, I was like, I'm the wife, like, what? Like, do you want me to say this out loud? Like, you want to come? They're like, no, everyone's just yelling, like, no, tell us. So he said that we lost a lot of blood, like, we did what we could, we were able to stabilize him, like, whatever. We're gonna bring him to the ICU. It was very tough. We'll see how he wakes up. And at this point, my wife goes up with a couple of my siblings to the ICU, and she gets a call from one of my brothers that one of the doctors told him that Cody destabilized. They're bringing him back into surgery. So at this point, when I already had to go through all that, and as close as it is, for whatever they fix to just rupture and burst again, it's not a good sign. And my wife up at this point was like the one who's consoling everyone, giving everyone comfort in the waiting room, like saying like, don't worry, like she works in the OR, she sees surgeries, and she's like, they're doing this, you have the best doctors, like they're working on him, like, he's gonna be good, like don't worry, like everything's gonna be alright. And you see like as like the wife of a patient, like this, like you're the one who needs consoling people, she comes and says it's okay, she's giving everyone strength, she's giving everyone cough. And at that point she had a moment of weakness, which is 100% expected. She told me that she broke down 100% completely. She lost it. And for context, she's 3 months postpartum, and for every woman who's blessed to be a mother, you know what that's like to be postpartum. Any minor inconvenience is the end of the world. And you see she's 3 months postpartum, emotions are high, everything is crazy, and she's breaking down, like she lost it. She's like, how am I going to be a widow? How am I going to go home, plan a funeral for Cody, raise Miles alone? Like, these are stuff that's going through her head, and things no one should ever have to think of. And these are things that are very much a reality, because like, how do you not think that way? She knows exactly how bad it is. For it to be that bad, to make it to the hospital, for it to get worse, there wasn't a good chance of me surviving as it was, let alone now. So at this point, I'm back to the operating room, and again, of course, obviously I'm not aware of any of this. And the doctor, the main trauma surgeon, calls his partner, who's not on call at that point. He's at home, like 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning or something. He gets a call from his partner, he's like, come in right now, I need you. Right away, no questions asked, the doctor comes, drives right to the hospital, and they start, they're trying to stabilize me. The first thing is that they're going into ticking time bomb. It's not enough to just, like repair what's going on. I'm losing a lot of blood. I lost so much blood that I lost my body's worth of blood twice. My body's volume worth of blood I lost over twice. I got 87 units of blood, over 47 units over my surgeries, another 40 at my stay in the hospital. That's about one little bag you guys see, that's 1 unit. It's about 50 people's worth of donation. Imagine 50 people donating blood just to be used for me. It went to a good cause, and I appreciate all the blood I got. But they said I ran them dry, and I'm pretty sure I set a record also. Always breaking records. So, and it's the doctor telling me after the fact, they said that they're looking at each other, they're like, okay, this patient comes in, he has an aneurysm rupture at home, he's losing a ton of blood, every minute there's blood cooling onto the floor. It's going nowhere else but onto the floor. Just they're putting it in, it's coming out. They're putting it in, it's coming out. And that really could mess with someone's body, separate from, like, saving me is the first priority, obviously, but again, you don't know what happens after, how I react to it. And these doctors, these two professional doctors who are amazing and probably the best at what they do here, they're looking at each other, they're like, considering all the cases, they're like, it was spoken word, they're like, he doesn't have a chance. And this one doctor told me this, he's like, we look at each other, he's like, there's a 0% chance he lives, there's a 100% mortality rate. But they're like, well, we're gonna try. We have to until we can't, until we have no reason to. So, one of the doctors ends up, trying to, they use these words, they said, we're gonna throw a Hail Mary. For those of you who don't know what that means, it means that it's the last resort. It's like, we have nothing else that's worked, let's try this. It's not a high percentage thing at all. But this one doctor, the partner he called in, he put his hand inside my abdomen on the bleed, the aneurysm, where my artery were ruptured, and held it down. And they said once he did that, the bleeding was able to stop. If he took it off, the bleeding would pull out all over again. So there's actually an angiogram picture, an X-ray of my abdomen. You see like the bleed area, and you see like the skeletal 5 fingers of the hand. His hand was literally there. You could see his hole inside my abdomen. And that was crazy because that's not something that's normal. So he was able to hold it there, and one of the interventional radiologists decided to run a couple of stents and fish it through my groin. I don't know what they did to kind of stop the bleeding and to fix it and repair it. They had to remove my spleen, so I don't have the spleen anymore. But they were able to close off the bleed. They were able to stop the bleed and sew up the artery, which was priority number 1. And as it was pretty crazy surgery. And they, after Baruch Hashem, they finished the surgery. They didn't stitch me up yet, because God forbid, if they needed to go back in for any reason, but they came out, they said, okay, we're going to take him to the ICU this time. And but also, it was mentioned that, we don't know the consequences of what he just went through. His heart is beating, but to what extent is he going to be like himself? If you lose that much blood over that short period of time, in that traumatic type of way, and considering the fact that I was so coated, my heart wasn't beating, the blood doesn't, your other organs need the oxygen from the blood, and we don't know what would be in my brain, what would be in my lungs, my kidney, my liver, my other organs if they had enough oxygen and blood to go through them while my heart stopped beating, as well as all the blood that left my body. But what was important is that I survived. My heart was still beating, but would Cody wake up as himself? Would he wake up 50%, 20%, whatever it is? But that's something for when I wake up. So, Baruch Hashem did end up waking up. This was the Tuesday. I went in on a Monday. This was the Tuesday. I woke up, and I had a breathing tube in. I was intubated, which is normal for these type of patients. It's to help you breathe. And the first thing I come to, obviously I can't speak. I have a tube down my throat, and I see my wife. She was right there by my bed, just like, oh my God, you're awake. And she's saying things like, where you are, this happened to you, are you okay, whatever. And I'm just nodding this, don't know, I'm pretty responsive. And to the surprise of all the nurses and doctors who were there, I was very responsive. Usually when a patient's like that, they're just going to be asleep for however long until, there's some signs of getting better. But right away I woke up, I was responsive. I remember for that first night, also when you have a patient who's intubated, their arms are tied down to the bed because they don't want them waking up and ripping the tube out of their throat for being, scared. but I was completely like normal. That first night, obviously I was still a little loopy from all the medicine and drugs and everything. That first night, before going to before people were leaving, after I saw my family, when my brother stayed with me overnight, my wife had to go home because she's still breastfeeding her son. She had to run in and out between the surgeries. She had to pump. She had to leave her breast milk inside one of the refrigerators. Like worried who's going to be with Miles at night, who's going to feed in the morning. Like she has to go back. Like there's just things that no one should be dealing with at all. And that's why I say she's like the strongest person like I've ever known, ever will know, because of the things that she's had to go through and how amazing she was and how strong she was going through them. It's quite remarkable. It's inspiring to me. So before going to sleep, I remember I tried to like play charades and trying to tell them what I want. I'm going like this, I'm going like this, I'm going like this. And no one seems to understand what I'm saying. I go like this, and after lo and behold, they figured out I was trying to say, cover my eyes. I want to say Shema before going to sleep. It took them long enough, but I wanted them to cover my eyes. I always say Shema before bed. Again, I don't know to what extent I actually articulated the words and everything, but I wanted at least, be like, have something before I go to sleep. And after that time, waking up that next Wednesday, they brought me in for like just, they saw I was doing so well, like remarkably well, like I was able to get off these medications that help me breathe and everything. And they were able to do a small surgery just to stitch me up, or staple me shut. Because I was open from the surgery, they had to staple me shut. And I was out for all that, but all well. And after like a little bit, I was able to get extubated. The tube was able to come out. And they said it was quite remarkable that it took that little time for me coming out of surgery to get extubated. It's truly crazy. And every nurse or doctor, I would hear them outside the room, like whispering to each other, like, "Oh my God," because they see all my medical records, like, "Oh my God, you see this guy, so much blood, he's going to do surgery, like, holy, like, what is he going to look like?" They're going to think they're going to see a corpse when they walk in. They go in, they say, "Hey, this handsome guy, just like sitting down there, like chilling, just died once, came back, a couple surgeries, no problem." But they look at it, "Shit, you look better than me." Like, it was really like Baruch Hashem. The fact that I was able to go through all that and like how I progressed so well. Like, they thought I'd be in the hospital for weeks, and just slowly I was checking bases very slowly, but I did that. And after I got extubated, I remember the first thing, like they just like cough, and they pulled it out of my esophagus, and it comes right out. And I'm like, the first thing, they have a very raspy voice at the moment. I look at my wife, I'm like, "I'm so sorry." And she's like, "Shut up, that's what you have to say," the first thing. But I'm like, I didn't know how bad it was. I don't know if I put it there. I always say, like, it's always easy to be the patient. It's like hard to be like, the family, and it holds true. Like, they didn't know for 8 hours on end. Like, my siblings were telling me they were like knocking on the OR door to get some updates from the doctors, like what's going on. Like my wife said, like she saw like something happened, they weren't telling her something. She like asked one resident, she's like, ask him, he's like, "Oh, I don't know, there's some surgery." She like looks over, she's like, "He's lying to me, like I don't believe him." Like they didn't know what was happening, and no one knew what was happening. Everybody in the hospital was working on me. But slowly but surely, I was able to get out of the ICU, and I was on a lower level floor, recovering very well, Baruch Hashem, and I was able to progress. I was able to get up on a walker and start walking around, which again is insane. I was able to even do laps around the entire floor. And this was Friday. It was Friday, it was Yom Kippur, and I remember right before Yom Kippur, said that no one heard from me, none of my friends helping, and Gabby was like texting a couple of my friends, like in the group chats, like saying all these updates and everything's good, whatever. I just sent like a thumbs up selfie and like, yeah, easy pass everyone. And all my friends are like, "Dude, what is going on with you, bro?" But so we go into Yom Kippur, Baruch Hashem. I mean, my mom stayed with me on Yom Kippur. We just didn't do much, obviously. And then Saturday after Yom Kippur, Rabbi Kohanim actually, Moti Kohanim came to the hospital and blew the shofar for me, which is something very, very important. I really appreciate that. It was very nice, very healing. And if anyone knows me, like, I'm very into fantasy football. That Sunday before, it was like one day before my accident, and I was watching football, stressing about football like anyone on the whole day on the couch. Then this whole crazy stuff happens, multiple surgeries, all that stuff happens, all the craziness, life-changing stuff. By that next Sunday, I'm already in the hospital stressing about football again. Like, Baruch Hashem, B'ezrat Hashem, and I made it most of my stresses, but I was ready, just watching football Sunday. People were coming to visit me. And that Monday, I was able to get discharged from the hospital. So exactly 7 days from when I was in, I got out, which is, again, crazy. That moment I got home, I was finally able to see my son Miles, and it's been a week since I saw him. He was very young, and I was 3 months old. And when I tell you there's like nothing like this kid, and obviously I'm biased because I'm his father, but he is the biggest light of the room. He will always smile, he's always happy, and like, again, ask anybody who knows him will tell you the same exact thing. Baruch Hashem, like Hashem knew exactly what Gabby and I needed to go, like, to have him to help us go through what we went through. Because like he was just the easiest kid. He was so happy just seeing him for the first time. I wasn't able to hold him because I couldn't hold like much like weight, and he's very, very big. But just seeing him that time was just like Hashem, like, you answered my tefillah. Like he was on my mind literally right before I passed, and like now I'm here, like, you know, being able to finally like recover, but I'll be able to like raise him. And it was really like such a blessing to see him. And when I say I had a shaky past, as Rabbi Adam also alluded to, so back in 2015 I was diagnosed with cancer. I had a Hodgkin's lymphoma. This was right when I graduated high school, and everyone's looking at me, what's wrong with you? Right when I graduated high school, I was going to go to school for the year. And this was a week before my flight, and luckily, you know, we caught it right before. But at that point, I was just home, and this is actually how I ended up meeting my now wife, Gabby. We went to the same high school 2 years apart, and I actually went back to the high school to see my teachers, like chat with them, see like everything's good, and that's when we like started talking, we hit it off, we started dating. But the moral of that, again, that's a whole story. You want to get into it to see me after. But I was able to meet my wife, otherwise I wouldn't meet her. So me going through cancer was how I met my wife. And now you fast forward, but wait, there's more. We got married in 2021, and like about 6 months into our marriage, we found out my wife ends up having a benign brain tumor. As I said, didn't get crazy now looking back. This is 6 months into our marriage. You know, it's supposed to be like the best time of her life, and we find out she has, you know, she needs a surgery, a brain surgery. And Baruch Hashem, again, benign meaning it's non-cancerous. But it was a very big tumor. It's 4 centimeters large, and it's huge. I'm not going to get into the whole medical thing of it, but it was a whole other challenge to overcome. And when I say that I grew from my challenge with my battle with cancer, I became who I am today. I was always observant, always religious. Baruch Hashem, my family was always observant and religious. But I kind of came into my own. I was a teenager, but I really became who I am because of that. I really took that challenge. I'm like, okay, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to grow? And that's we need that. Again, sometimes it's more severe than others, but everybody has their own thing that they go through. And for that, at that time, it was me fighting through this, and Baruch Hashem, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't go back and say, I don't want cancer. Like, this made me who I was. I had this beautiful family. I'm stronger than ever, like Baruch Hashem. And when I see my wife's whole journey with her own medical history, she, like I mentioned, she was the most inspiring person in the world to me. The way that she grew from this was my growth was nothing compared to it. Hers was exponentially better than mine. And there's times when I'm not doing well and I'm down, she's the one who gives me the call, that needs to go up, be stronger. It's like, it's insane how strong she is and all that she has to go through. Like supporting our family with every meaning of that word, it's truly remarkable and it's truly amazing. I'm very blessed for it. And what I was gonna say now, but Rabbi Adam kind of like took that from me, about the whole story that was the Torah he gave about Moshe Rabbeinu and Abraham and Hashem, about like, you don't know why these things happen in the moment, but when it's all said and done, maybe you'll understand why. One thing I'd add is that when Hashem's back, it's towards us, we learn from the Chachamim that Hashem wears tefillin. We wear tefillin, Hashem wears tefillin. And when you see it from the back, there's a knot in the back of the tefillin. We see there's a strap that goes right, and there's a strap that goes left. You see right, right usually means good stuff, and whatever. Left means, what we perceive as bad, because again, everything good, it comes from Hashem. Those two straps, they connect to that one knot. Ultimately, all of what we see as good, all that we perceive as bad, it's from Hashem, so it's all good. So we have to really, obviously, when things are tough, times are tough, it's all we can really focus on. We really have to go through that. Hashem is struggling, Hashem is making us struggle because He wants us to grow from it. Like you work out for your muscles to get broken down so they can grow back stronger, that's exactly what we are as people. We need to grow back stronger. And Hashem knows, Hashem has a vessel for every single person, and He fills that vessel with a certain amount of light. When that light, when the light He wants to give us is too much for us to handle, He may need to break you down to build you back up stronger. And I think that's what I like to take away from what I went through, what my wife went through in our history together, is that we've only gotten stronger, and the obstacle is the way. We can't just shine our eyes towards any obstacle, we have to go right through it and grow from it. And this story being as it is, like I said, I wasn't technically even supposed to make it out of my in-laws' house, let alone to the ambulance, let alone to the hospital, let alone to the ER, let alone to the OR, let alone survive after coding, let alone them getting me through the surgery, to destabilizing, to back into the surgery, to waking up, and to waking up 100%, and to getting back to even stronger than I was before. I was about like 195 pounds going in. I got to 165 pounds after my surgery. I was distraught. It looked disgusting. I was so tiny. Slowly, a month later, I was already exercising. A couple months later, I was already playing basketball slowly. Then I was playing contact. Then time after time, I was just getting back stronger and stronger. At a certain point, people were like, you look better than ever before. I just went through the craziest thing in my entire life, and I'm back stronger than ever. The people I play basketball, they'll tell you, I'm better than ever was before. I'm better, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, everything's better. And that's only from owning up to the challenge you go through, because that's how you grow. Again, there's times where you may want to sit down, you need to cry, you need to just want to give up. That's fine, we're humans, but we need to take that moment to get up and do better. Because that's ultimately why we're being tested for. And I look around the room, and there's a lot of people here, obviously, and a lot of another alternate reality where it was easily feasible. Someone else would have been up here, and it could have been everyone here at my funeral. And when I think about that, it's such a sobering feeling because I'm here, Baruch Hashem, and I'm better than ever. So how can I be grateful? How can I be thankful for all that I've been through, all that I've went through in order to grow and be as strong and happy and healthy as I am now? Before all this was Rosh Hashanah. 2 days before Rosh Hashanah, my wife and I had a pretty rough year before. It's tough, Rosh Hashanah. We had a kid, and with that comes challenges, everything, financial, mental, emotional, everything. It was tough. And I was just going through this Rosh Hashanah. I'm like, Hashem, give me clarity. I'm praying. Let me be healthy, let me be happy, let me be successful. Let things just work out. Let everything work out. It's just, times are tough. And 2 days later, all this stuff happens. How do I make it that? All the crazy things happen. But then slowly after, obviously that euphoria wears off, and I'm home, I'm relaxed, I'm just happy to be home and surviving. Life comes back, and it's okay, now what? How do we move forward? And it's not hard. Abby had to work a month after my surgery. She's postpartum. Sure, she has to leave her child. As hard as it is, as a working mother knows, it's not easy. And her husband just came through altering surgery. She almost lost me. And now she has to work. And it was tough. It took us time to get back to the status quo. But ultimately, I'm sitting here now, a little over a year removed. I'm like, Hashem literally answered all my prayers. Everything I prayed for was answered. I just had to literally open my eyes to it. Baruch Hashem now, Miles is 17 months, bigger, healthier, happier than ever. Our family's doing very well, Baruch Hashem. I have the clarity that I was praying for. Everything just started working out. I really had to put my mind to it and just really believe it's possible, manifest, so let it happen. And at that moment, when I was, down for the count for a bit, this is something I tell myself, and I truly believe when Hashem, brought me up to Shemayim for however, short that was. At that time, it was an October 7th event, the same day, and that's what a lot of the communities found out. There was some word came out and whatever, and Rabbi Biton was actually here, and they said, hold Tehillim. And everyone was here, they just heard the breaking news, and everyone was praying. I think over 1,000 people in one night joined the Tehillim chat. I think they finished hundreds of times. And I think when Hashem brought me up, ready to take me, he's like, Ora Moshe Ben Orly, it's you? I hear your name a lot up here. I'm not quite ready for you. I think there's more for you to do, and I think you need to go back down and do it. So at that point, I think he brought me back down to earth. And he didn't need to take me. I didn't need to code. I just went through a crazy surgery to survive. Like the fact that he brought me up to bring me back down is telling me like I have more to do. And I think this is one step towards that. And my story or my wife's stories, anything for anyone, it's like we hope to inspire others. We hope to help others through their problems as well. Of course, everyone's struggles are different, and everyone's struggles are the biggest struggles to themselves. There's no comparisons, obviously. And we just hope to bring light of that, like everything that you go through, you can overcome, and that it's happening for your benefit, truly. And we just need to, stay on that path, stay on that direction. And every single day, I thank Hashem every morning, every night, even when work is bad, something bad happens, like, thank you, Hashem. It's bad. Thank you, Hashem, for you. Like, you truly, even if you fake it, you make it. Just thank you, Hashem. Something objectively bad happens to you, just try saying thank you for it. You don't know what will come of it. You don't know how it will really look in the long run. And that's me always like, privately thanking Hashem. At this moment, everyone here, I'd like to publicly thank you, Hashem. Ribbono Shel Olam, I just want to thank you for answering all my tefillot, for bringing me where I am. I wouldn't change one step of the journey I'm on. Thank you for answering all my prayers, all my family's prayers. And B'ezrat Hashem, may you always answer our tefillot, and may we always use the blessings you bless us with for good. May we always use what you bless us with to give to others, to help others. May we continue to be blessed, to help others do well, find the right path. And B'ezrat Hashem, may we only share in Smachot. Again, and thank you everyone for being here and sharing a special moment with me.
And like you just mentioned, Orel Moshe Ben Orly, it's a name we all know, Orel, the light of God. I think you truly are the light of God in this world, Orel Moshe Ben Orly. Thank you for sharing your story with us. At this time, we'd like to invite everyone to the back for Sukhaniyot tasting. At 10:20, 8 minutes, we'll have our beads in the front right here. Thank you so much. This